Hello everybody, QuickKin42 here with part 2 of the spine videos. As mentioned before, in this one we're going to be talking about the different kind of features that the vertebrae have that'll kind of tell you, what part of the spine they belong to. So with the cervical vertebrae here, we've got our sagittal view and then of course our top-down view. Now, with the cervical vertebrae, they tend to be a lot smaller than the rest of them. These images aren't exactly to scale, just because I had to kind of resize them to fit them all in here. But in terms of actual landmarks, so with your cervical vertebrae, you've got your spinous process right here, which is a bone that kind of juts out posteriorly. And then if you're to look at it from the top down, you've got these little a foramen here on kind of the lateral sides. Those are very unique to the cervical vertebrae. You don't have those in either the thoracic or the lumbar. It's just in the cervical vertebrae that you've got those. So these foramen here are used, I believe, for kind of the smaller branches of the spinal cord as it descends from your brain. And then, of course, this larger foramen here, I believe they're called foramen. That's where the thicker part of the spinal cord kind of branches down into. And then also with the cervical vertebrae, you'll also notice that kind of the base where it would be stacking with vertebrae above and below it is relatively small compared to the other ones. Now, jumping down to thoracic, what you'll kind of notice immediately is that the two holes that we had up here with cervical, those are no longer down here. Instead, what you've got these spinous processes that kind of jut out and kind of laterally. And then another thing you'll notice is that the spinous process that goes posteriorly, it's a little bit larger as opposed to the one up here. But then if you were to palpate on someone's back, it might be kind of difficult to tell, one size from another just from kind of touching. I'm sure as a trained chiropractor or, general practitioner of medicine, you can probably palpate and tell. And also palpate is another way of saying gaining information by touching. So if you want to palpate for inflammation, you can, feel for it on somebody. That's just an example of palpating. Anyway, so with the thoracic one, it's also got a larger kind of base, larger body right here, as opposed to the cervical one. Now, coming down here to the lumbar, the foramen in which the spinal cord goes down is narrowing. It's getting a little bit smaller. And then also the spinous process here is taller. And it's almost like it's been smushed a little bit. And then you've also got these transverse processes here that are more kind of perpendicular to the body of the vertebrae, as opposed to these guys up here, which are more like an angle. So so this is just kind of a basic visual diagram of the differences between the different vertebrae. And now we will move on to intervertebral discs. Now, these are the squishy bits between your vertebrae. These give you support. They give you some, a little bit of impact resistance, a little bit of weight bearing, and they also give you, they allow your spine to move in the ways that it does, bending over, twisting, flexing, extending, rotating, things like that. These gray little discs here, they allow for that movement to happen. They are, I believe the term was fibrocartilaginous. So the fibers part is this kind of gray, ropey, kind of crisscrossiness in here. And I'll also outline it here as well. It's very fibrotic. It's very tough. You've actually got fibrotic joints in your skull. It's the sutures that kind of connect the different bony plates of your cranium. We'll talk more about that later. And then kind of the cartilaginous bit is this sort of, you know, ocean water looking bit in here. Now, despite the intervertebral discs on their own not allowing for so much movement, when you've got many of them all doing little movements together, that's what allows the greater ranges of motion in your spine. Now, I will say one thing from a pathological standpoint is whenever you hear about herniated discs or bulging discs, these guys are what they're talking about right there. So what'll happen, just real quickly, is whenever the vertebrae, you could have some kind of degeneration in the bone, or it can sometimes happen from a very heavy force being put on the spine. These intervertebral discs will actually bulge out at certain points. And so what'll happen is you have all these nerves kind of, going through the spine, as well as blood vessels too. And if there's a nerve right here, and let's say this disc was bulging out, it would be pushing into that nerve, causing you immense pain. Now there are differences between herniated discs and bulging discs, but I'll have to kind of look back at the notes on that. That can be talked about in a different video if y'all would like. But yeah, I just wanted to do a little bit of that for part 2 of the spinal anatomy. Each vertebrae does have individual bony landmarks with their own names, but we can go into more meticulous detail about that in a later video. Anyway, sorry for the fast talking. I'm trying to keep this as quick as I can. So yeah, if anybody has any questions, concerns, or corrections, feel free to put them down in the comments below. Thank you for watching. I'll see you all in the next one.